We unpack. We unpack. We unpack. Coming to you live. Boxing Ego unpack. Yeah. We unpack. We unpack. We unpack. Coming to you live.
Bad news. But first, baby, you want baby? I know that. I was born ready. Terence Crawford. The bad news is Canelo may not fight Terence Crawford. According to Eddie Hearn, he believes that Crawford's fantasy fight may not happen versus Canelo. I was born ready, right? And that's what I want to talk about in this video. Subscribe. I got the direct quote. So a brand new interview from British promoter Eddie Hearn. He did an interview with Boxing News, and I'm gonna get into what he said and then give my thoughts. So stay tuned so your boy Ego can unpack. We unpack, coming to you live. Eddie Hearn says in this interview, I don't think Terence Crawford beats Canelo Alvarez because the weight is too much. You're not talking about just 168 pounds. You're talking about a guy that is going to be 185 pounds in the ring. So he's saying it's not just making the weight. Eddie Hearn continues by saying it's a strange fight, but obviously it's a fantasy fight. Sometimes these fights get made. I'm not sure that will get made. So he's saying, I'm not sure it'll get made. I don't think Canelo Alvarez is mad about that fight. And when he's saying mad, he's using like the UK version. Mad meaning like he's not like crazy over the fight or the idea of the fight. Because some people think the US terms in terms of like mad being angry. But he says, I don't think Canelo is mad about that fight, meaning he's not really worried about that fight. He's not crazy over the idea. I think he feels that, like, quote, what do I get out of beating a 147-pound guy or a 154-pound guy? No one is going to give me credit. He would take the fight if the business is right. Eddie Hearn continues by saying, I guess he has his ideas of what he should be making in that fight. And if His Excellency, Turkey Al-Sheikh, can meet that, he'll take it. If he can't, or if he doesn't want to, then he'll probably not make the fight. So Eddie Hearn kind of pouring cold water on the pretense of this particular fight, right? And again, I don't always agree with Eddie Hearn, but every dog has his day. And when it comes to this, I pretty much agree with everything that he said, surprisingly. Yeah. Now, let's start from the top. I've told you from the beginning, I don't care about Canelo versus Terence Crawford. Yes, I'm a real boxing fan, but you're not going to move me with these fake Marvel versus Capcom style fights that really don't make sense. I'm not motivated by that. Like, that's like, I've watched movies that were done on an independent level, like an independent movie, or it didn't have a bunch of A-list actors, but the movie was incredible. So you're not going to sell me just because a movie has an all-star cast that it's automatically a great movie just because it has names that I'm familiar with. That's not how this works. I'm a real movie buff and connoisseur of movies. My family, we've always like been very, very into cinema, things like that. I've directed and edited things. So that's an analogy that I can give you. I don't care about an all-star cast if the movie is bunk. You see what I'm saying? So same thing with Canelo versus Crawford. I don't see the vision. I don't see the reason for the fight. I don't see and like the setup. And that's just my honest opinion. This is not hate. You know, every time I say an opinion that doesn't coincide with some of you guys, you say is hate. I don't really care. It's not going to stop my opinion from happening. You ain't going to do nothing. So we just be at odds and agree to disagree or whatever they say, because I'm not changing, because this fight makes no sense. Canelo has fought 2 times, I believe, at 175 pounds. Why do I want to see a guy? I haven't even seen Crawford fight 1 time at 154 pounds, right? We will this weekend in the Israel Madrimov fight, and we'll see how Crawford looks at a 54. But see, even me doing this is almost a waste of my time, because I'm young dictionary, make words make sense. So I don't like to do the fantasy fight stuff, but this is a recurring issue. People want me to talk about it, so I'm giving you my fair thoughts and, you know, sharing my ego final thoughts on the matter, because it's something that continues to get talked about. It's just, I could go on, and for so many reasons, it just doesn't move me. Now, I'm not a hypocrite. I'm not a fake person. I'm a man before any of this boxing stuff. So if you see me in public, I'm the same person that I am on camera. You know, I'm a man. You know, I don't really even care about boxing more than I care about my manhood, you know? And I'll say the same thing. You know, fans, oh, why don't you? You're not going to convince me that I need to see it. But that being said, if they make it, I'll watch it, just because this is my business, is my job. So it's really kind of my civic duty to cover any fight that people think is big, even if I don't like it, you know what I mean? And that's just the reality of it as a business owner. But I'm telling you my personal opinion, I don't really care about the fight. I don't see what people find so intriguing and like majestic about this particular fight. Look how big Canelo looks right there. You know what I mean? And I've said it from the beginning. I am not a big fan of really any fight where there's a premeditated, built-in excuse for the loser of the contest. Oh, he dared to be great and all that. I hate that. I really detest that. I loathe that in the sport of boxing, because it's corny. Like, every fighter that laces him up is daring to be great. So what I found is this is just a convenient cop-out to say that so-and-so got their ad whooped by making a poor choice. You know, and I've used this example before. If you run around butt naked back and forth across the 4-lane highway, a freeway, in flip-flops, I don't look at that as, oh, this person's so brave. Look at, they're running back and forth and dodging all these cars and semis and stuff. To me, that's not bravery. It's not bravery to put yourself in a foolish position and a stupid situation. And, you know, whether you come out on the winning side of it or not, I don't look at that as bravery. I think that's stupidity. If you have something mentally wrong with you, if you're butt naked running across the freeway and it's dangerous with all the cars coming by, like, you know what I'm saying? So I don't look at stuff like that. So I don't miss me with that whole dare to be great. Oh, he dared to be great. And just like Eddie Hearn saying, this is what I said from the beginning, the section where he was saying that I don't think Canelo is mad about the fight. Like, he's not like, this is not such a crazy fight. Like, what does this offer Canelo Alvarez? Like, really, you got to ask yourself these questions. What does he really get from fighting a Terence Crawford? Crawford's a good fighter. He's a great fighter. He's a future Hall of Famer. But Canelo already has several future Hall of Famers or Hall of Famers on his resume already. Gennady Golovkin. Hello, guys. Hey, Max is not his punches, guys. Right? He fought 3 times with Triple G already. Triple G's a Hall of Famer. He fought in the ring with Floyd Mayweather. Obviously, Floyd, Pretty Boy Floyd, Money Mayweather, definite Hall of Famer, arguably an all-time great or the greatest. He fought Shane Mosley, Hall of Famer. Miguel Cotto, Hall of Famer. So all of these guys that I just named have a better resume than Terence Crawford, especially when you start getting into the Mayweathers and the Shane Mosleys and the Cottos. Their resume is destroying Terence Crawford. And when I say these things, and I say it so cool, calm, collected, it's so brazen, people get mad. Oh, you're hating. People don't like the truth. That's what I noticed in this modern society. If you say something that's truthful, they'll say you're hating, but they can't prove you wrong. So I'm good with that. As long as I keep talking my talk and you can't prove me wrong, yes, you at home, as long as you can't prove me wrong, Boxing Ego continues to thrive and we're going to continue to win. I wish somebody would. I wish you had more time, huh? Yeah. I wish somebody in this comment section would try to explain to me how currently Terence Crawford, even with the Errol Spence fight, great win for him, but historically compare Shane Mosley's resume, you know, guy who fought Pacquiao, guy who fought Floyd, fought Oscar De La Hoya twice, Winky Wright, you know, Shane Mosley, right? And compare that to Terence Crawford's run. Or a guy like Miguel Cotto. Yeah, the guy that fought against Mayweather, the guy that fought against Pacquiao, the guy that twice fought against Margarito, that fought Zab Judah. Like, come on, bro. We're talking Miguel Cotto, who knocked out Sergio Martinez, that guy. Crawford's resume does not stack up well with any of these legends from yesteryear, right? And that's just the reality of it. You could say it's hating and all that. I don't really care because, again, I know you can't prove me wrong. So Canelo already has that. He already has definite Hall of Famers or future Hall of Famers on his resume. So that's not super enticing. Then we switch over to the money. Canelo is making more money than pretty much anyone else in boxing, not name a couple people in select fights, maybe like Gervonta Davis and Ryan Garcia in their best fights, or maybe Joshua got a bag for the Riyadh season, or Tyson Fury, Wilder. You know what I mean? There's a couple people, but Canelo, he's up there, or he's in the Forbes list and all that, right? So he's making quality money as a prize fighter, and he's fighting Munguias and Berlanga. So how much would he even demand for a fight with Terence Crawford? Because he assumes all of the risk in that fight. And that's what Eddie Hearn is saying, which is what I've been telling you. He says, I don't think Canelo is mad about the fight. I think he feels like, what do I get out of beating a 147-pound guy or a 154-pound guy? No one is going to give me credit. He take that fight if the business is right. And some people are like, oh, but Canelo fought Jermell Charlo. But guess what? Your boy Ego, the king of consistency, the best in the business, and it's not even close. I complained about that fight too. So I'm consistent. This is not just anti-Crawford or anti-this and that. I had problems with the Jermell Charlo fight. I told you, I didn't really care about that fight either. You have a guy from 54 who was undisputed, and he was a power puncher, and we've already seen it. He just went up and he couldn't do nothing with Canelo Alvarez. He didn't give himself time to acclimate. I don't like fights like that. I'm telling you what it is. I truly don't, because it's just, you got to look. Every fight, I assess the variables and the risks on both sides and things like that. And I don't see what Canelo even benefits. There's a lot of people, the Bud Buddies, the usual suspects, and they're trying to frame it like, oh, Canelo's ducking. If anybody out there is a guy that you could say Canelo's ducking, it's the guy, David Benavidez. To even frame Canelo ducking Terence Crawford, it sounds foolish when the man hasn't even fought at 160 or even 168. So how you ducking somebody that's never even competed in the category, in the weight class that you even fight in? You see how stupid this sounds? Do you see what Boxing Ego is telling you? So I don't believe that. I don't. And trust me, I'll be the first to call out Canelo on his BS. And that leads me to my next point, because I'm gift wrapping this for y'all. I'm making it, we're going over this subject, and I'm just completely laying it out, telling you why I feel how I feel, and I'm gift wrapping it for you. You don't even have to wait till the holidays when Boxing Ego speak. But Canelo's definitely avoiding David Benavidez. I've said that. I give Canelo flack for it and criticism. But again, this is a guy who is a former 2X champion in that same division who was calling out Canelo. He's obviously beating top guys at 68 like Caleb Plant, and also a guy that Canelo avoided, Demetrius Boo Boo Andrade. So that conversation makes sense to say Canelo, there's an avoidance to fight David Benavidez. He's a super middleweight. Now, because Canelo won't fight him, he's a light heavyweight most likely, right? So that makes sense. But to say he's ducking a guy that has no business at 60, has completed not near one fight at 68 is just stupid. And it furthers the point. In case you missed that video, I'll repeat it. This is almost what I refer to as advanced cherry picking, right? And I'm not saying it's a cherry pick, meaning it'd be an easy fight, because I probably would favor Canelo because of the size variance, right? So I'm not saying it's a cherry pick. When people hear cherry pick, they immediately think you're picking a snowflake, a cupcake, an easy fight. But the way I'm framing it, and when I'm saying it's an advanced cherry pick, I'm not saying it would be an easy fight for Crawford, but I'm saying out of all the super middleweights, you want to leave everybody else alone except for the cash cow. That's why I say advanced cherry pick, because you're not calling for a fight with Demetrius Andrade. You're not calling for a fight with David Benavidez, even when he was in the division. You're not calling for David Morrell. You want a Willy Wonka golden ticket to the chocolate factory, and you just want the Canelo sweepstakes as is. And there's a lot of inferior boxing talk. I'm just telling you what it is. You're not going to outsmart me. I already know the points that people make before they even make them. They're going to be like, oh, why is Canelo fighting Berlanga? Listen, I'm not really keen on the Berlanga fight either, because again, Canelo's avoiding David Benavidez. And me being a fair critic and giving my criticism when it needs to be given and when it's applicable, I told you I'm not really, the Canelo Berlanga fight, I wouldn't have picked him. That's not what I wanted to see from Canelo. However, one thing we're not going to do is, you can't take away that Benavidez is in the division. He couldn't get the fight, and Berlanga's also in the division, and he did get the fight. Same thing with Munguia. So whether you like the Munguia and Berlanga picks from Canelo or not, they were rated guys with some level of a profile that actually competed and had prior fights at super middleweight 168. So even those, they all make more sense. I think Terence Crawford is a great fighter. I think he's a sharpshooter, very agile, makes good adjustments, things like that. He has the warrior spirit, mean spirit. But I also feel he's arrogant and stubborn. And I feel he's arrogant. He thinks, oh, I've done this and 2X undisputed and I got 2 SBs, like stuff that people don't really care about, for real. He feels like, oh, I'm gonna get the fight with Canelo based on that. You think Canelo Alvarez cares about your 2 SBs? I highly doubt that. Again, Canelo, he's made more money than you. He already has Hall of Famers. He's already making crazy money to fight Charlo, Berlangas and Munguias and Yildirim's and whoever else he's getting mega millions to fight, right? And again, there's some fault there because a lot of these aren't fights that I would have requested and I criticized them. But again, I just feel like what would Canelo even want? Because if he's already and see, this is the other thing that's getting real weird with this whole Crawford stuff, is Canelo already gave Crawford an answer. Why are we even still talking about this? Like, Terence Crawford, he's been calling out Canelo. Canelo already said, I don't want to fight this guy. Like, he's literally in studio on a Spanish station, and he's like, why should I fight Crawford? No, the challenge makes no sense. You won't give me credit for him anyway. So Canelo's already stated he's not interested in the fight, which is what Eddie Hearn's saying. And Eddie Hearn has worked with Canelo, and he says that they have a good relationship, and they're kind of working together with PBC for this Berlanga fight because Berlanga's with Eddie Hearn's stable, right? So if anybody would know, it's probably Eddie Hearn. You know, it sounds like he has a quality relationship with Canelo, and he's telling you the bad news, and some people just don't want to accept it. Crawford doesn't want to accept it. He keeps calling the man out. Turkey is saying, oh, we're going to offer Canelo money. I mean, maybe they can get it done. Money definitely talks. But for me, I've expressed myself very decidedly and eloquently. It just doesn't make sense as a fight for me. I am not motivated outside of the fact that it's two known names and people will try to hype that up. There's other better fights and other fights that are more reasonable. And the thing that's weird about, you know, Turkey Al-Sheikh and Riyadh Season pushing Crawford on Canelo is clearly Turkey is backing Terence Crawford. He said that pretty much in so many words, like, oh, Crawford, he doesn't get the respect he deserves, blah, blah, blah. But Canelo's the A side. You know what I mean? So you're going to have to offer him a lot of money to take a fight that he already said he wasn't going to take, because all of the onus is on Canelo to perform. Because just think about this. If, let's say Canelo got chipped up and got a bag to fight Crawford, and he takes the fight. If he so much as loses rounds or gets hurt or anything that's like flashy, then that hurts Canelo. That hurts Canelo's legacy. So for that risk, it's gonna have to be a lot of money, I would imagine, because you're basically, it's almost like the Rocky movie, if you will. And I'm not saying it like, I'm not comparing Crawford to Rocky Balboa because Rocky was like a journeyman, but I'm just saying in the sense of Rocky got this once in a lifetime opportunity at the champ Apollo Creed, and that's the whole premise of the movie, is a guy that really didn't deserve to fight a star boxer in like an A-side person, and then he got the opportunity. So just in Rocky Balboa getting dropped and going the distance and not getting knocked out, that's an accomplishment because you weren't even supposed to be here. I hope you guys follow. And I'm not bashing Crawford and calling him Rocky Balboa and saying, you know, he's a journeyman like Rocky was in the premise of the movie. But Rocky, the fact that you're in the ring with Apollo Creed, he's like, come on, hit me more. And the fact that you didn't get knocked out and destroyed in the first round, that's something you can tell your grandkid. You know, back in the day, me and Apollo Creed. You know what I mean? And then now that's a victory for you. And that's kind of what it would be for Crawford. Even if he got knocked out like Amir Khan, it's a victory because his paycheck will be the chunkiest paycheck that he's ever had. And then he could just say, I dared to be great. You know, I had a hell of a career and I bit off more than I can chew. It's just, this whole thing is foolish. The other, I got so much more to say. Listen, y'all gotta, we unpacked. Y'all gotta bear with me. The other issue is this. Turkey called Jaron Boots Ennis after he knocked out David Avocado, aka Avanesian. And through different comments, I thought he said he was going to try to push for Terence Crawford versus Jaron Boots Ennis. Now that fight makes a lot more sense to me, right? But you look at Bud's team, Bomac just did an interview with Andre Ward. They keep fronting on Boots Ennis and saying like, oh, he's not ready. Show us. If he's not ready, just fight him, knock him out. I'll give you credit for it. You know, the fans will give you credit for. It would be Boots is an urban legend. He's doing very well for himself, him and Bozy Ennis. And it'll be more of a wave than fighting Madrimov, because Madrimov has 10 fights and no one really knew him outside of hardcore fans. Boots, he just packed out his hometown in Philly and did a 14K crowd or whatever it was, right? So it's some deception being done here. Crawford should be fighting Jaron Ennis. Ennis has done interviews saying he'll fight at 40, Crawford at 47 or 154. They're both switch hitters. One's younger, one's older, of course, but that's experience versus more inexperience. Crawford's team just keeps saying that Boots isn't ready, which could be true. I don't know. Crawford, damn good fighter, and he has a lot of experience, but show us that he's not ready. And I find it ironic that Crawford is kind of little boying Jaron Ennis. Like, man, I've done more than you. I'm way further along, making more money than you. I don't need to fight this Boots guy, right? This is kind of the conversation. You're fronting on Boots. But ironically enough, that's what Canelo's doing to Crawford. He's like, what's in it for me? This is high risk, low reward. Canelo's saying I don't really gain anything. And the Bud Buddies, they say Canelo is ducking Terence Crawford, but then they don't say that Boots is being avoided by Crawford in the same. And it's really analogous. It's a very comparable situation, if you will. It's very comparable in terms of, if you listen to what Team Crawford has said about Boots, they're basically saying, you got to do more. I'm not really impressed. You got, like, you're not ready for me, blah, blah, blah. What's in it for me with him? It's a lose-lose situation for me. That's what Team Crawford, in a nutshell, is saying about Boots. And guess what? That's what Crawford is saying about, or that's what Canelo's saying about Crawford. He's saying, like, why should I fight him? He's a guy who spent his career in the lighter division, 35, 40, 47. He's about to have one fight at 54. And then I bring him up to this new weight class. People won't give me credit. That's what Crawford's saying about Boots. He's like, oh, people will say he's too green. So it's just funny that fighters will say, like, oh, this person's ducking me, or so-and-so is doing this to me. But then they turn around and do that to another fighter. And I know you guys know and feel me and know what I'm talking about. The same thing Canelo is saying about not wanting to fight Crawford because it's not enough gain for him. It's kind of what Team Crawford is doing to Boots. And I just feel like I'm not Riyadh seasoned, so this is their money. But as a boxing analyst, my 2 cents is, if you have all this money, why not push for these fights that probably make a little bit more sense? Like, push for Canelo and Benavidez, the fight everybody wants to see. I don't know how many people are even asking for Canelo versus Crawford. I really don't. And then you look at, like, let's be real. Crawford is fighting Madrimov, and I get it, Madrimov is no Canelo name, but he's proven that he's not really that dude in terms of a ticket seller. He's a heck of a fighter, but the skills aren't translating into ticket sales, right? So that's even less reason for Canelo to fight. Now, if you made the Benavidez Canelo fight, that's colossal. Even the UFC said, if Canelo ain't fighting Benavidez, then we don't care about, going against him. But the UFC knows that that fight's too big. They're not going to stage their fight on the same day. So like I've said from day one, what I believe makes more sense is Crawford versus Boots and Canelo versus Benavidez. So let's just say I had 200 mil to play with to divvy up and make blockbuster fights. That makes a lot more sense to me. Crawford, Boots, they're right, because Boots, he looked like he struggles to make 47 at times. Like, he looks and then Crawford just moved to 54, so they're not far off, right? And the other thing is Boots is there's not that many top names at 147 right now. And then you look at the best names, would they even want to fight Boots? Because that would be dangerous. So to me, I still think the most bang for your buck is Crawford versus Boots. And again, Canelo versus Benavidez is a massive fight. The last thing too is this Madrimov fight. We haven't seen Crawford throw one punch at the full 154 against anybody. And people are overlooking that. That's another reason I feel like it's very foolish to have all these conversations and dialogues about Crawford at 68, and we don't even know how he looks at 54. And that's what I'm saying. You're getting people in boxing, and people are putting their opinions on like what matches should happen, but it's also borderline disrespectful to the sport to overplan too much past what you got in front of you. You know, you got to clean your existing plate before you look for seconds and look for dessert. So Crawford, talented fighter. Canelo's a good fighter, but he's just big. He big, and that's the other thing is Crawford started whatever at lightweight 135. You could make 168 and basically probably be fighting at your walk around weight, but then what do you rehydrate to? Being the smaller guy, meaning you're hitting the number on the scale. How do you look? Because we've seen, like, for example, Canelo, when he brought up Jose Cito Lopez after he stopped. See, I could give y'all so much boxing history. Let me do it like this. For those that don't know, Canelo Alvarez was supposed to fight Victor Ortiz. Look it up. They were both with Golden Boy at the time. That was the fight to make. Victor Ortiz ended up getting his jaw broke by Jose Cito Lopez and pretty much retiring in that particular fight. So the winner was Jose Cito Lopez, and his nickname's the Riverside Rocky. So they used the momentum from that Victor Ortiz victory and jaw break performance, even though Jose Cito Lopez was in a tough fight and he was arguably losing, I think, on the scorecards before Victor Ortiz's jaw was broke. It scrambled up and messed up the plans for Canelo Victor Ortiz, which is the fight that they were trying to do. So they end up giving the fight to Jose Cito Lopez. A little bit of boxing history for y'all, because I'm Boxing Ego, the best in the business, and it's not even close. So I know a lot of y'all didn't even know that. So the point I'm making with Jose Cito Lopez is he was the underdog, pulled the upset, got the Canelo fight. But in getting the Canelo fight, he had to move up to 154. And then if you look at how his body looked, and I think Crawford has a different body type, of course. So I'm not saying Crawford would look flabby and look doughy like Jose Cito Lopez looked, but if you know boxing, this he just put on extra weight to hit the number on the scale. He didn't look good. He didn't look like a super middleweight. And I truly believe Crawford, he would look probably muscular, but he's not going to look like an actual true super middleweight. And as you guys know, this is how it ended for Riverside Rocky. He was getting punched up by Canelo, being the smaller man. So I really don't want to see that. I don't really want to see that for Crawford. I think there's other fights out there at 54, or the Boots fight, which would likely have to be at 54, because Crawford is the A side in that equation. So that's my honest opinion. I don't blame. I know a lot of people are trying to blame Canelo and say he's ducking. I give him the business when he deserves it, but I'm not calling that a duck, bro. He ducking Benavidez, if anything. Crawford, it's like, where do you get off cutting in line? Like, you could just move up 2-3 weight classes, and then the person got to bow down to you and make the fight with you because you want it, because you think it's a good legacy fight. Well, he doesn't. And that's the thing is, we'll see. Like I said, we'll see. First of all, we got to see what happens Saturday, because I'm done talking about it. because I don't even know. Because like, here's the thing: what if Crawford got hurt on Saturday versus Madrimov? Do you still want to see him fight Canelo at 168? Because if Madrimov, bro, I'm telling you, if Madrimov has any success, any moments where it looked like he's getting Crawford's respect, then it's just gonna solidify me. And I'm promise you, these moments in boxing, y'all better hope and pray that Terence Crawford has a flawless performance, because it's just going to further my point. If Madrimov has any level of success at 154 with Crawford, it's gonna cement what I've been saying. So you better hope that Boxing Ego is wrong and it's not a competitive fight and it's not any way a challenge, and then Crawford just go in there and dust Madrimov off. But if he gets hurt, if he gets a bloody nose, if he gets staggery or stumbled at 54, then a lot of you guys who are saying Canelo's ducking at 168, Terence Crawford, you're going to look very stupid, because you're saying that Canelo would be fearful of a guy who hasn't fought even at 60. These are all divisions that Canelo's already cleared and been in for a minute. 60, 54, then 55 Canelo weight, then 60, then 68, and then he got like two with Bivol, or one with Bivol, 2 fights at 75, one with Bivol, and then one with Kovalev. Let's see Terence Crawford move up to 175 and fight Benavidez or Bivol, because although Canelo got abused by Bivol, it was still quasi-competitive at first, and he didn't get knocked out. If Crawford moved to 175 and it was fighting like a Bivol or Benavidez, I could see that being bad. And the Bud Buddies know this. That's why they want Bud to circumvent Morrell's and Benavidez and Benavidez and Bivol's and those guys, and just immediately get the Canelo fight. And I don't believe in that. I think there's other more reasonable fights to be made. But y'all better hope and pray that Terence Crawford does not have a competitive fight, because if it's even remotely competitive at 54 with Madrimov, then my point stands even stronger that I don't want to see the Canelo fight at 168. Because if you're getting hurt at 54, or you're even in a competitive fight, then what is it going to look like? You move up more divisions. And see, this is the thing. I told you I got a lot to say. The only exception to what I'm saying is if you clean house in all these other divisions and you just have no other options. There's no other viable money-making fights, but I've already gave you examples, so we know that's not the truth. Boots is a viable fight, possibly Charlo, Sebastian Fundora, Tim Tszyu, maybe an Arrow rematch at 54. There's plenty of other fights. There's fights at 60 possibly, right? So there's still plenty of other fights before you get to a Canelo, right? Period. But the Bud Buddies, they don't want that. They want Crawford to just get the easy ticket. But like I said, we'll see what happens at 54 with Madrimov. I've seen Crawford get hurt by smaller people, and I'm telling you, if he even has a competitive fight with Madrimov, then the Canelo fight is just foolishness, because it's at 168. This is what Eddie Hearn's saying, right? And I agree. He's saying it's a strange fight. It's a fantasy fight. Canelo gonna rehydrate to at least 185. I don't think Crawford beats Canelo. So that's another reason. Why would you, as a boxing fan, why do you want to see a fight if you really believe it's hopeless and the guy doesn't really have much of a shot? And then if he loses, he can just say he dared to be great and have all this, like, you know, oh man, at least he tried and all this. I'm not for that. I just think there's much better fights before you get there. Boom. We unpacked.